Welcome to COWL Fans, the casual fans' home for Overwatch League news. We're coming at you today with so much stuff to talk about. Mostly things to look forward to, but some things to talk about from the past week as well. We're going to have a good time. We're going to get it done, son or daughter, respectively.
Boy.
I'm Aluramore.
I'm Howleir.
And, we're actually going to try something different today. We're going to kick off this week's episode with a review of the score lines from last week. So, we had plenty of games, but really not too many games. And here's how this breaks down. We have Philadelphia taking Dallas 3-0. We have Los Angeles Valiant taking Houston Outlaws 3-2. We have in the Asian region. That was on Friday. On Saturday, in the Asian region, we had the Guangzhou Charge taking down the Seoul Dynasty 3-1. The Spark taking down the Spitfire 3-0. The Shanghai Dragons taking down NYXL 3-1. Then in North America on Saturday, Eternal took down the Washington Justice 3-1. Toronto took down the Vancouver Titans 3-2. San Francisco Shock took down Houston Outlaws 3-0. And the Atlanta Reign took down the Dallas. Oh, that's the end of Saturday. Then on Sunday, Atlanta Reign took down Dallas 3-1. Florida Mayhem takes down the Los Angeles Gladiators 3-1. Philadelphia Fusion takes out the Los Angeles Valiant 3-0. And Vancouver Titans take down the Boston Uprising 3-0. Not a lot of close games.
No, not really. Not. It's kind of in the theme of the Countdown Cup.
Yeah, countdown to 3-1s.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's scheduling, but part of it is it's just the league's starting to sort itself out for the most part. Still a little bit of confusion in the middle, but top dogs are kind of really solidifying themselves.
It seems
which is good going into playoffs. It's very Countdown Cuppy.
Yeah, that's true. It also feels like not only that, but the top dogs feel like a lot less like they're fighting for the top spot. They also feel like they've solidified their first, second, and third places also.
Maybe I still have questions. Like I'm not convinced Paris wins again.
Fair.
So I would say the top. Maybe you can make an argument for the top three. Especially like visually, it looks like the top three are still kind of up in the air. Results wise, it looks like there's more of a top two than Fusion Mayhem. But there's questions to be had. There's still a little room for wiggle in the top four. But yeah, I think you're right in that it is for the most part kind of solidified in a 1, 2, 3, 4 fashion.
Yeah, it's not. They've achieved their positions. They're not moving a lot, but that's because they're moving through Jello, not concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So, but not a whole lot of interesting close maps. We already mentioned that because I can't remember what I say ever.
Good.
But a good place to start for us, where the Tampa boys, we like it here. Florida brings home a win against the Gladiators. Look at your Lightning jersey. I'm so proud of you.
What up,
Sports
Tampa
puck.
Bay?
It's not sports
Bay.
ball.
We back.
Yeah, so Florida brings home a win, 3-1.
Not stressful at all.
No.
Nice and clear cut and easy.
Yep. And that's there's not a whole lot else to say about it, I don't think.
There's a lot to say about it because it was not clear cut and easy. This was a bit spoopy.
Oh, was it?
To say the least. Did you watch the match? I wasn't sure. I didn't see you on the Twitter.
No, I could not. I'm just pretending like I watched the match and nodding my head in agreement with you.
Okay, because I was joking. Because this match was stressful.
Oh my.
Well, maybe not stressful the whole time, but it was stressful at points. Because I mean, we dropped the first map to the Gladiators, but
yep,
you don't need to hear me go on another control rant.
No, I really don't.
But basically, the meta on control has gotten further and further away from the meta on other maps. It was bad enough when control just plays differently, but at least you had the same heroes. Now it's just you don't even play the same heroes, man. It's Junkrat everywhere. Just Junkrat Symmetra
I know.
all over the
It's
place.
so fun.
And so it was interesting. Something of note, because you didn't get to watch it, if we were running Junkrat Sim as well, but our junk is BQB and our sim is Yaki, where on every other team that would be reversed. So that was interesting.
Nope, don't
But
like
yeah, they
that.
just gladiators are only good when they're weird. They're like the new Chengdu, the Western Chengdu. Like there was a stat that was put out during the game. Their most played team composition of the season accounts for 6% of their play time. The gladiators are weird. They don't like to play the meta. They wanna just throw you off. Their their coach literally makes YouTube videos saying feeding is good. So they're just a strange team. So on Control, they played some wacky stuff, and the wacky stuff happens to be good on Control. And we tried to match the wacky, and it didn't work out. It was close, didn't work out.
So it turns out Yaki can't match the wacky.
Yaki can't match the wacky. Although I think it was a little bit more BQB getting outmatched on the Junkrat.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Why is BQB playing the Junkrat?
Yeah, it feels weird.
Someone
Granted,
explain that to me.
BQB does have a weird hero pool. If you like really try to think about it, like we make him play something that makes sense. But if you think about BQB and combine like the last 2 seasons of what he's been doing, BQB's hero pool is a little weird.
Sure, okay.
Especially considering he like kind of misses the 2 main hit scans of Widow and Tracer. Like those are his 2 least comfortable heroes, where for a hit scan player, those are usually they're comfortable in one or the other.
Right, okay.
BKB's a bit weird.
Sure.
So that happens. We go to Havana, destroy them. Destroy them. And I'm like, yeah. Now this is it. And then we go to Numbani. And Numbani's pretty spoopy. But
Numbani's an uncomfortable map.
Yeah. It is. And I was uncomfortable for most of it. We didn't even complete the map, but we are able to make them less complete-er-it. And everything's good. And then we go to the Hanamura. And Hanamura, oh boy. It was just, hey guys, let's not defend. was apparently what we decided to do. And we go to not 1, not 2, but 3 rounds of Hanamura. And keep in mind, if we lost Hanamura, we would not get a top 4 standing and have to play on Friday, which I would have been not so worried about considering the other teams, but it's nice to not have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredibly close. Kevster's Genji seemed to be beating Yaki's Genji, which wasn't a great feeling. Although it kind of felt like we were beating them everywhere else. Okay, and there's one other thing I want to talk about this match. All right, so I kind of got you up to speed. This is how it went. It was really close. We barely win in the end. We're able to take the 6 point where they weren't able to get a tick on B on their 3rd attempt of assault.
Okay.
Now, the big differentiator was Byram was playing Zenyatta. Okay?
All right.
And Byram did play pretty decently. Him and Yaki are suffering of the same deficiency, I feel like, where their neutral game is ballin'. Like, you want to Dragon Blade into Byram, he gonna discord you, and he gonna hit you in the face and then kick you with the boot, and you gonna die.
Sure.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Byram was actually popping, and I'm usually pretty hard on Byram, and I hate to see his existence on our team. But Byram was popping.
Right.
And Yaki was like, yo, I'm just gonna start this match and like go swish, swash, swish, swoosh. with my shurikens and my slices, and we're just gonna kill people. We had some cool like dive setups. There was one point where we literally like space was alone on the outside like docky area of point B of Hanamura,
Yeah.
where you can like fall down into the trees.
Mm-hmm.
So we dive space over there, who's kind of alone with
Ooh.
BQB and Yaki. Like BQB on Ash, like coach guns over onto the dock to dive with Yaki, and we make it work. And it was something you could like see us doing a lot. Like BQB would get a headshot, would like throw a dynamite, get a quick headshot, and then Yaki would like instantly dive in and finish off the kill. And then slash out. Sometimes you get punished for it. For most of the time, it made it work.
Right.
But then we pull the blade, right? And just Yaki's blade don't seem to have bite. Maybe part of that's like our team, like when the Philadelphia Fusion, when Ivy has been playing their Genji for some reason and not EQO, but when Ivy pulls blade, like Philadelphia Fusion is like, okay, we know you're gonna throw everything into countering this blade, so we're gonna throw the full force of everything we have at you at the same exact time. So even if for some reason Ivy's blade doesn't work out, we're gonna crush you. Maybe we're like putting a little bit too much on Yaki and not enough, like not supporting him enough at the same time to really capitalize on the opening he's making for us with the blade.
Right.
But his blades have felt dull to me. And then Byram's transcendences. Just why Byram? Like he's pulling him out early, or he's pulling him out because he hears blade happen, but the blade isn't even happening anywhere near him. So the trance is he's just flinging about, doing nothing. His trances were pretty tragic, and were a lot of the reason why Hanamura went to 6 matches, to 6 points. Granted, he was a lot of the reasons why we were able to win, probably. The defense on B and then the attack on B to set us apart with that extra point. So it's confusing. And my other problem is, just besides Byram's ultimates, is the Florida Mayhem have a problem with metas. We always seem to be behind the curve.
Yeah.
We're always a week behind. And a lot of it is because we just play what beats us. And we don't seem to understand why that comp was being played. We just think, okay, we lost to that. That's better. Let's do that. But so we didn't get to do a podcast last week, but we kind of got slapped by the San Francisco Shock.
Right.
Particularly Violet Zenyatta.
Yeah.
Right? So we kind of got destroyed in it. And it seemed, if you watch that weekend and like look in hindsight, you'd be like, yes, Zenyatta was the better meta pick.
Yep.
But Orisa wasn't around then. So Zen could get a lot more value because he didn't have to go through double shields for the most part. People were running a lot of Winston. Zenyatta's a great counter to dive tank.
Yeah.
Right? So like he had a place. It made sense. You couldn't play Ana into the Zenyatta, so you couldn't just like nano boost and then kill everybody through Transcendent, which Gladiators did to us. You couldn't just put down a Bongo and Supercharger through a Transcendent,
right?
Which boosted damage, which Gladiators did to us. So it made a lot of sense to be playing Zenyatta that week for a multitude of reasons. But like all of the hero bans really just gave Zenyatta the ability to shine.
Right.
Coming to this weekend, we're the only team that runs Zenyatta.
Yeah. We really are always a week behind. That's not the first time that's happened to us.
And it's like they can't look at that weekend and figure out, okay, these are the reasons why Zen was being played and why we were struggling with it. It's just, let's adjust to what we saw, and hopefully we see what we saw this weekend and make the adjustment for the actual Countdown Cup weekend and see, oh, San Francisco Shock, Philadelphia, and Paris all weren't running Zenyatta anymore. Oops. And maybe it was strategic because, again, I've talked about Chengdu of the West. They really like to do dive, and honestly, Gladiators look the best when they get to dive. So maybe we were playing Zenyatta to keep them off of the Winston and the ball comps.
Maybe.
Maybe that was the reasoning behind it. I'll accept that, but the trend is a little worrying. So I have to at least acknowledge it and hope that we figure something out, because we can't keep being behind on the meta.
It seems to me
particularly when playoffs roll around.
Yeah.
Actual playoffs.
Yeah, it seems to me that our biggest struggle with being behind on the meta always comes as the hero bans unlock or change. And
Yes.
so I think because they're not going to have those during the playoffs, and at this point, it doesn't look like we're going to have to play through the first round of the playoffs.
Yes, so that is good. So at least we're going to have a loser's bracket to fall back on.
Yeah.
But I'd rather not us just have us bomb out into the loser's bracket straight away because of a bad read.
Exactly. So we'll see how it goes, but it seems unlikely that we'll bomb out because of a bad read, because what's happening is, even in this case against the Gladiators, we are a strong team.
Yes.
And you know what? We watched the San Francisco Shock versus the Paris Eternal, and that's exactly what happened to the Shock. Was they had a week behind bad read on their meta.
Yep.
And they barely lost. But you know what? That's 2 of the top 5 teams. If we're not playing a top 5 team, I think our actual just strength as being good will carry us through, even if we don't have the right meter.
And honestly, even a top 4 team, like Mayhem feels definitively like 4th right now, at least by the eye test. I think results-wise, you can make an argument for maybe Florida being able to beat Fusion, but from the eye test and just how crazy, like the tempo that Paris Shock and Philly are playing at, to me, it didn't feel like Florida was quite on their level. But Philly also went to map 5 with the LA Gladiators. So, I don't know. I'll accept an argument for it. But to me, it doesn't feel like we're quite there. But definitely feels like we're better than everybody else below us. And honestly, the Countdown Cup standings show that. Like, you don't get to see it too often. But if you look at the standings that we have for the Countdown Cup and then look at the map differential, there's only 5 teams that are positive.
That's true.
Of the 13. So it just shows how much those 5 teams are dominating. And as you said, like the top 5. But we also dominated the Atlanta Reign, who is one of those 5 teams.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Reign had a very easy schedule outside us.
That's very valid.
So it's really just this top 4. And it felt good that we played some hard teams, some harder teams. We did bad against San Francisco, but we played Atlanta and Gladiators, who are probably the next 2 strongest teams below us, and a bit of hiccups against the Gladiators, but overall, pretty convincing wins that kind of solidify us as a top 4 top dog, which is nice.
Yeah, I completely agree. So now that we spent a lot of time on Florida, more than we normally do. Wow.
Well, yeah, and we didn't talk about Florida last week.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to talk about, and honestly, there wasn't a lot to talk about.
There just wasn't a lot going on this week.
So like the whole conversation is just around now like the top 4, and then the wacky doo-doo dandy of the other 12. So it's like you got your top 4, then it feels like maybe Atlanta and Gladiators, and then all of the other teams can maybe beat each other on any given day, except for Boston, who's pee-pee poo-poo.
Oh my gosh. That's not even, you know what, 2 weeks ago we said Boston has officially been boomed. Last week we weren't disproven. This week we were still not disproven. It's gone.
When you go into the playoff qualifier match, the 2 worst teams,
neither of them have a win
against each other, and you get 3-0'd, that's pretty low.
That's it.
Like, where else do you go from there?
Up is the only place you can possibly go. You can't go down any further.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
But you know what? Another oof that happened this week is Houston. Houston had a demoralizing Map 5 loss against the Valiant in
Those poor guys.
in what looked like it was going to be a W. I thought they were going to wind up winning that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure how it was going to shake out cuz this is two teams that were really on the up and up in the Tracer Ash meta. Like we're really looking good. Valiant made semifinals. Both of them I think had wins over us. So they were teams that were looking really good.
Right.
And then Genji becomes meta and both teams are just like guys, our players are really good at hit scan and we have projectile players, but they're really kind of our issue. Please don't make us play with them. So I didn't know what I was gonna do. I'm like, okay, we've got both these teams with amazing hit scan players and really crappy projectile players, and let's just see how it kind of shakes out. And it ended up going to the absolute edge. I thought, as you said, Houston was gonna win, particularly because they ran with Dante on Genji, and just if you need a carry, just have it be Dante, right? They didn't do this all the time. We unfortunately saw Linkser Genji at points, and Linkser Tracer, things that you generally don't want to see, which kept the series close. But for the most part, I was liking what I was seeing from Houston. There was less blasé, more Dante. Thumbs up from me, right?
Right.
But oh boy. Do we just want to just go right to the end? Because
yeah, I think the end's the only place that matters. So they wind up 2-2 in a Map 5. Houston looks like they might actually win, and I don't think they've won a Map 5 all season.
It doesn't look like they might actually win. It looks like definitively beyond a shadow of a doubt, Houston Outlaws just won the match.
It does.
Like they win their last team fight on Control. It's 1-1 already. They're fighting for the last point of the last map. And Houston just team wipes LA Valiant at like a 90% capture percentage. So you think there's only 10 seconds left. There's no way. This is done. This is done. It's over. It's over. And then Dreamer comes in just on the wrecking ball with the emergency touch, right? And like good teams would have stopped that from ever happening in the first place. With like a full 10 seconds to try to deal with that. It's not like they had just finished off some of the Outlaws players and then he touched. Like they had some time to say, Sigma, you go here and get ready with a rock. Brigitte, you go here and get ready with a stun and a whip. Orisa, you stand at this other door and be ready to fortify if he comes in. And no matter what, we've got our bases covered, right? Not only do they let the wrecking ball in, he's able to slam and get a kill. And then the rest of the LA Valiant is able to slowly trickle in. And then I think McGravy is able to Sigma float his way over there.
Because that's what he does.
And I think, like, was it Shax or KSP, like, had a pulse bomb or something. And they're able to just wipe out the Houston Outlaws and win it when they had no business even being able to contest that point. And you're just like, I don't know, did Houston just walk away from their keyboards? Did they just think they already won? I
don't know. But you know what? Houston, like I said, I don't think they've won a Map 5 all season long. And if they have, it's been like one. And that's rough. That's hard.
That's been their MO. The entirety of like their existence. What I immediately tweeted out after that map was Monte Cristo's ASMR triggers for Houston Outlaws fans, where he just goes, think about map 5s and how the Houston Outlaws lose
Yep.
Like, that was last year. And they're still losing all of their map 5s.
It's true.
There's just something in that team. And their roster is almost totally different now. Rocket's retired. I'm trying to think if there's any, like, Dante's the only person, like Dante and Linkser. Linkser really the only original Outlaws still on that team. But they still just
can't do it.
Something in Texas.
I don't know. It's in the water.
Yeah, it's in the water.
So, anyways, we need to move ahead to our Countdown Cup preview time. It's time.
Let's do it.
It's time. Here we go. So, we had the 5 through 8 seeded teams pick their opponents this yesterday evening. So Sunday, August the 6th. No. Sunday, August the 2nd. I'm looking at other stuff. I'm totally junked up. Anyways, so 5th place team Atlanta Reign has elected to go against 12th place team Vancouver Titans, who had just qualified by winning against the Boston Uprising 3-0.
Yep, and also just beat the took the Toronto Defiant to map 5 that weekend. I don't think they won.
No, they did not.
They played it close.
6th place team Los Angeles Valiant has elected to face up against, again, the recently demoralized Houston Outlaws. That should be interesting. The 7th.
Yes, but it's a rematch though. Like this, Florida Mayhem. Just Florida fans, remember when we did this? That's all I gotta say.
Yep. 7th place Dallas Fuel has picked 10th place Washington Justice, and 8th place Toronto Defiant has picked 9th place Los Angeles Gladiators. And honestly, you know what? Why even pick seeds if we're just going to pick them like this, guys? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I guess, like, people... I don't know. Outside the Houston Outlaws ones, the picks make sense to me. I think the Valiant should have picked Justice. And then maybe the Outlaws pick Fuel. But granted, I think Washington took a map off, like, Paris Eternal, which is impressive in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because Paris Eternal were kind of rolling most teams. So to even just take a map off them is pretty spicy. So I can understand, like, respecting the Tuba Genji, particularly when your Genji player kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe go against the team that has a crappy Genji again and hope things turn out well. But these are some interesting matchups because, again, the rematch of Houston versus Valiant, very, very nice edge of a result. Vancouver Titans looked so much better this week than they had before. Like, I had them kind of in the pee-pee poo-poo tier with the Boston Uprising up until now because Dalton's Genji looked like garbage.
But it did not look like garbage this week.
But this week it looked really, really good.
Yep.
They took Toronto to the limit, and we know Agility's Genji is no slump. And then they just make quick work of the Boston Uprising. So, and Atlanta Reign is perpetually overrated. Congratulations on beating, like, who did you play this season? Or this Countdown Cup? You played Valiant, talked about their struggles. You played Boston, and you played the Dallas Fuel. Like, congratulations on beating the Boston Uprising and the Dallas Fuel Atlanta Reign. Good for you. You have yet to beat a good team.
Right.
They should probably beat Vancouver Titans, but Vancouver Titans is looking a little better. And Atlanta Reign, I can't be sold on that team yet. They have to do something that deserves it. Like, everybody just gives them the benefit of the doubt. They've done it since they were putting them as number 1 in their power rankings in the preseason. But they got to do something.
Yep.
They got to do something.
And we'll see what they do as this goes on. It's pretty tough to pick who the winner is out of this. Winners are some of these knockout brackets. I'm expecting it to mostly go the way of seeding. But I see potential
DC
for
versus
upset everywhere.
Fuel probably has the most upset potential. Because
Yeah.
Fuel just looked really bad. And Tuba's Genji might just be enough to carry Washington to a win in that match. Like, Fuel's probably the weakest of the top 4 seeds.
Yeah.
So,
But
if I had to put one upset, but as you said, like, really any of them, maybe except the Toronto match, could be an upset.
here's the thing, and I think we said this. We definitely said this earlier. I don't see any potential for any of the 5 through 12 teams to beat any of the 1 through 4 teams in the quarterfinals.
No, it's not
So,
happening.
which kind of gets me to the point where it's like, you know what? I don't think it matters who you're predicting in the knockouts. The knockouts are going to be the most fun games.
Yes.
But then really all eyes are going to be on the semifinals after these quarterfinals. People just move on. Obviously, even Atlanta Reign, who's the top seeded one in the 5 through 12 section, hasn't really done anything recently to give us lots of excitement.
Them.
Right.
Like, it wasn't close.
Right, exactly. But, the fact of the matter is, I think these are still Overwatch League caliber teams, so if any of the top 4 teams decide to take a day off and try to be super lazy, well, don't take a day off and try to be super lazy. Like, I'm looking at this going, yeah, there's no problem. These guys are going to win. But then I'm remembering that, oh, you know what? Sometimes these guys are idiots and take a day off when they shouldn't.
Yep.
Don't do that, and you will all make it.
Yep.
And then we can just look right on ahead to the semifinals, which are going to be, I'm fully expecting
really good.
Shock versus Mayhem, Eternal versus Fusion, and a time.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and this will be Mayhem versus Shock without the hero pools, and this will also be Mayhem versus Shock after Mayhem's had another week without the hero pools and another match without the hero pools, which I think is going to be very good for them.
Yep.
So far, Shock integrated their new Genji player into their roster. They've done a good job of that.
I mean,
Super's Genji's not a meme, apparently.
Super's Genji's not a meme. Don't say otherwise. They'll come for you. They'll come for you.
Right.
But they haven't been running. They didn't run Tayo, I think, at all this weekend. They played Rascal on Genji, which, like, why didn't you just do that in the first place? Why didn't you just do that in the first place if you were gonna do that, San Francisco Shock? But then they also ran Super again. So I don't know if they're trolling. They say they're not trolling, and they're acting mad about it. But then, why did you pick up Tayo?
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Why did you sign someone to your roster for a week and then just say, "Oh yeah, we have Rascal"?
Well, that's one of the beauties of these 2-week contracts that are available, man. But the fact
I don't think it was a 2-weeker.
Well, they didn't tell us, so how would we know?
Didn't. They're usually pretty explicit on that.
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Maybe it was.
It's possible that they
brought
just
him to the team house too. Like,
yeah,
that's commitment.
Yeah. I'm kind of anticipating them going, you know what, we're just sort of playing through in scrims and giving all of our Genji's chances to play, and this is what we're finding works week to week, and that's just how they're moving along, which I'm not upset about. Yeah, which I'm not upset about because I feel like that's a really smart way to, first off, keep all of your players staying competitive even if they're not playing because they're scrimming for spots on the roster to play. Like, I think that's a healthy level of competition. And then, but yeah, you're right. Bringing in Tayo and then just using their existing players does feel a little silly. So we'll have to see. He looked good when they brought him on. When we played against them, they pretty handily beat us. So really the question is going to be how well did we pick up on the meta, and did the meta work, and were we able to work with the meta?
Yep. And the big thing to keep in mind of that matchup, that was before hero pools were removed.
Right.
So I feel better about us depending on how we react over the next week. If we
Right.
come out with the Zenyatta again, I'm going to be a little nervous. I'm still not sold on Byram's Brigitte either. I very much liked Chris's Brigitte. I thought it was quite good. Granted, I haven't really seen him play it since the Brig nerfs came through, but I don't know. I was kind of hoping to get a sense of it this week, and then he just played Zen the whole time, so I'm still confused, still not sold. But I think we should have a better shot. If we could
Yes.
just clean up our blades a little bit and how we play around our blades, um, we should be good. And then I think it'll just come to a matter of how do our attempts to clutch against the San Francisco Shock work out? Because we've been trying to do like San Francisco Shock-esque ultimates where we're down 2 people in a team fight and we try to turn it with an ult, like
That,
San Francisco Shock does all the time.
yeah,
And
but
it
they're
doesn't,
special.
yeah, it doesn't pay off for us as much. But San Francisco once tried to do Vancouver Titans ults against them early in stage 1, and it didn't really work out. And eventually they figured it out.
It's true.
So maybe we figure it out within a week. I'm not super optimistic on it. I feel like we get to the semis and then probably don't proceed from there, but you never know.
Right. Although, you know what? If you're going to try it, that kind of thing out, I mean, we've locked in a pretty solid position for the overall season playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
We're making it to the semifinals, so we're at least getting one bonus win out of this. I'm really not worried.
Yeah, our percentage right now is
It's high.
2.33 for our win-loss percentage, which is how they're apparently doing the standings right now. Atlanta Reign are at 1.43. So we're pretty big jump between 4th and 5th. We're pretty comfy, and if just put another semifinal win on that, I almost think it's done and dusted.
I think so too. So, but with that being the case, you know what? If you're gonna try and figure out how to do those kinds of ultimates and how to turn those kinds of team fights around, no better place to practice than right against the guys who are good at it right now.
Yep.
So
with all the stakes, they're not going to be holding anything back in scrims. It's gonna get the best learning experience you can. So try it. Try to figure everything out before the actual playoffs roll around. I agree.
Yeah, just don't fall into a rut because you guys are trying new things, right? Like don't try new things, and that knowing that you could mess them up, and then the failure tanks you. Don't let that happen.
Listen to DJ Khaled, man. He's been in the scene since 2018. He knows. Don't play yourself.
Yeah, and he's been on all those commercials now too.
Has he?
Oh, yeah. I keep getting Geico commercials with DJ Khaled in them on my Hulu now.
That's something.
Yeah, he comes to be a motivational life coach for a guy brushing his teeth. It's hilarious. Highly recommend you look up the Geico DJ Khaled commercial on a totally unrelated aside. As an Overwatch fan who watched that on stream, it's very beautiful.
Major key.
Anyways, so we have the Paris Eternal versus the Fusion, and honestly, this feels like the closer, less certain semifinals matchup.
I think this is the Fusion's chance to like solidify themselves as a top 2 team and keep the Paris Eternal from running away with that title.
Yeah.
I think they'll have another chance after the Genji nerfs come through. I'm a little worried about Paris after that, how they adjust to it. But the Philadelphia Fusion, like as I was saying earlier, they feel like a top 3 team. Like their pace, their tempo, and what they're able to do feels impressive. But when you look at the results, map 5 with the LA Gladiators, it doesn't. There's room for questions. So I think this is a good chance for Philadelphia Fusion to really solidify themselves. And if they could beat Paris and Shock and win this tournament, I think that's an important statement win for this organization. Because they've been great this whole year, but they haven't been the greatest yet.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be coming in with a chip on their shoulder and going to have a lot to show.
You know what? I don't think that's good for the Fusion. I think that puts the Fusion at a disadvantage when they come in with a chip on their shoulder.
It can. I mean, it depends on how you use that chip, right?
Right.
A lot of teams come and it's just, can you use that to feel yourself, or are you going to use that to tear yourself down? Is it going to weigh you down, or is it going to be the training weight you need to learn how to use the new hockey?
Yeah. That was good. That was good. Classic One
A
Piece.
little One Piece for you.
I haven't watched the new episode from yesterday, so no spoilers,
Mm.
please. So yeah, I agree with you. However, just my general perception of the Fusion is they win at the end of the day most of the time,
Yep,
and going to map fives is just where they live. They've always lived
that's
in those
true.
clutch moments. And you know what? I don't think Fusion would perform as well against anybody if they didn't push them to the edge. So I think Fusion just is one of those teams where even if they were the best in the league, you would still be questioning whether or not they're the best in the league because that's their team personality.
Yeah,
And I
I guess
think,
that's true.
yeah, and so part of me doesn't want to see that change because of the entertainment value, and the other part of me, it was thinking, you know what, don't change that because that's how you work. What's what makes you tick, and when you figure out what makes you tick, you continue to lean on it a little bit and let it happen. So, but you're right, a couple of wins here, even close wins, which is how they would go if it was the Fusion winning them,
Oh yeah.
would be just what the doctor ordered for them in
Yep.
solidifying them up there. Um, yeah, and so let's jump over here to the less settled and the less certain Asian
Oh gosh.
bracket.
I forgot that Asia existed for a second.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you because I rely
Oh
on you
boy.
for that. Um,
Oh boy.
so let's just start with this. Um, what even are Asia results,
Yeah.
right?
So probably the two worst teams. So Shanghai's still good. Shanghai's still good. This is our one constant in Asia. Shanghai equals good.
Right.
Praise be. But after that, your two worst teams probably last last tournament, Chengdu and Hangzhou, are your number 2 and number 3 seeds here.
Yep.
And then you got Guangzhou, New York, London, Seoul. So it's very, I don't, it's confusing. And if you look at the results, like sometimes the matches are close, and then sometimes they're a stomp, and it doesn't make sense who's doing the closing and who's doing the stomping. I think it's like, oh, let's have London take Shanghai to 5 and then get 3-0'd by Hangzhou, and like weird stuff.
Yeah.
Just I don't know what to think about the Asia regions. Honestly, I haven't been watching the matches as much. From what I understand, they're still playing dive because just Asia gonna be Asia like that.
Sure.
Which bodes well for Chengdu because Chengdu hasn't played since the hero pools went away, which was going to be a concern of mine for that team when Arisa came back into into play, and theoretically dive should be less existent, but apparently Asia has said no. We love Zarya Winston. So I really have no idea what to expect in Asia, partially because I haven't watched.
Sure.
But I mean, Seoul always sucks until it's tournament time, and then they could take Shanghai Dragons to map 5 and almost, or map 7 and almost sweep them before that even happens in the first place.
Yeah.
So like Seoul could always turn on. London will randomly take teams to map 5, and then one of the other crazy things is one side of the bracket. So the winner of Guangzhou Charge versus New York Excelsior goes on to play the Shanghai Dragons.
Right.
Those are your top 3 teams in Asia by a big margin. There is a huge gap between New York Excelsior and the rest of the league.
Like overall standings, not for this
in the
particular
overall
tournament.
standings.
Right.
Yep, not in the Countdown Cup standings. But so like one of the top teams isn't going to be making the finals. One of the 3 top teams, which leaves a huge opportunity for these other teams that are right neck and neck with each other to really differentiate themselves from the pack.
It's true.
So it should be interesting. Any of these matches can go any way. I'm excited to try to watch these because it should be very interesting.
Should be.
I have no idea.
Oh man.
What to expect.
Excuse me. Yeah,
You're not excused.
Oh, okay, thanks. I'm pretty equally confused, not gonna lie. I haven't gotten a chance to watch any of the Asian games because I work and have a baby on the way. So, I'm busy. It's hard. We made this for the casual fans who this is hard for. I expected you to be my fallback so I didn't have to do this. You're ruining this for me.
There's too much to watch. There's too much to watch right now. I needed a little Overwatch break. We'll get back at it.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the only safe thing to predict is Shanghai to win the whole thing, but it seems like looking at the standings and looking at the results, any team could take any team on any day over an Asian region. And I wonder if that gives them an edge in general when it comes time for the actual playoffs and them coming together against the North American region. I'm not sure that it does, but it might.
I'm really interested to see how they match up with North America, and I'm kind of sad we're only going to see the top dogs face off.
Yeah.
I believe that like teams like Shanghai could probably go toe to toe with your Shocks and your Fusions of the world.
Right.
But I'm so interested to like see how Seoul Dynasty compares to like the Houston Outlaws. Like, these are my burning questions.
Yeah.
How does your bottom of the pack compare to our bottom of the pack?
It's true.
Because there's so much parity, and is that because your teams are just that good, or are they just that bad?
Right. It could go really either direction, and we don't know.
I don't understand why, if they were that good, why haven't they figured themselves out yet? I have some questions in Asia, and I also wouldn't be shocked if we do get to the Final Four and it's an NA final, just because Asia turns out to not be that good.
You know what? I'm honestly really expecting there to be I'm really expecting a lot of this to be due to probably experimentation. Historically, the Asian teams have always been more willing to experiment than the North American teams and the European teams. They lock into a meta and they don't want to let go. But the Asian teams will build their own metas and will do what they want and will try to make counter metas. And that just doesn't happen.
Traditionally on the world stage, that never works out. It's always the meta rigid teams that would come out on the top of international competition.
That's true. That's true once it comes down to a tournament. But it makes me kind of wonder, because I'm always that future-looking kind of guy, and the future-looking guy in me says what you want, what you should be aiming for is for these counter meta teams to develop successful counter metas and to be able to put on a good show, if not win, against the ones who are stuck in the meta. And last year we started to see that come out of the Shanghai Dragons in particular.
True.
In amidst of Goats meta, Shanghai Dragons developed a triple DPS meta that forced the whole league to start changing what they were doing.
But it took them 9 months of no meta change to figure out how to make that work against the existing meta.
It did, and
not 9 months, but 3 stages.
Yeah, it did. It took them a long time, but they did figure it out, and it did make a humongous impact. And then we switched to 2-2-2.
I'm just concerned when metas change so often, if they'll be able to understand the nuances of what's so strong soon enough to be able to beat it. Granted, the other argument is we don't have the opportunity to understand metas as well.
Right.
So
that's a perfectly valid argument. But with the constantly shifting metas, with the Shanghai Dragons being the one team that figured out how to do it at all, because we really haven't seen another team do it before or since.
Yeah.
I think that bodes well for the Shanghai Dragons having a deeper understanding of how metas work, which is probably what's keeping them so strong in the Asian standings.
Oh yeah, the fact that they adjust to every meta, like every once in a while, other teams will rise to meet them, but the fact that they're always the other team says a lot about them.
Yeah, Shanghai Dragons has figured out how to read metas and how to build something to counter them, and I think that's important. And the more that they do it, and I think other teams would do well to study what they're doing, and the more other teams study that and figure it out themselves, I think the more we wind up with things like counter metas going around, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that to say, we have no idea what's going to happen in the Asia bracket, but we think Shanghai's going to win. Cool. Good talk, guys.
Just basically the same as every year.
It hurt, but it wasn't wrong.
Yep.
So yeah. So that is the Countdown Cup preview, and it's going to be a great little tournament. I'm excited about it. And then we'll have just a couple more weeks of games, like 2 or 3, I think.
2 weeks.
2 weeks of games.
2 weeks of a lot of games. Like some teams play 3 times. They'll play Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. 2 weeks of extensive gaming. Let's go, gamers. And then we'll take a break as we get ready for playoffs. No, we do playoff. We go right into playoffs, don't we? And then we take a break as we get ready for those top 4.
We maybe take a week off, but it's not long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it'll be like a couple weeks at least before the top 4.
Yep. So it's almost here, guys. We finally made it. We made it through all of Corona season.
Yeah.
The Corona Watch League, and now we're ready.
So, and Florida Mayhem is almost solidified as a good top team. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
We hoped. We hoped, but we never thought. Because thinking is bad for you.
I mean, I think I did have Florida Mayhem at 6th on my power ranking, so.
Okay, special guy. You're better than us. Gosh.
Higher than Atlanta Reign, by the way. Throwing that one out there.
Nice. Got him. All right, so thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. Thank you, those of you who are going to watch this on YouTube after the fact. We appreciate you, we value you, and we just want to say thanks. And please like, subscribe, and leave comments and stuff, because that helps our stuff become more viewable, which is great for us. We want to share this with as many people as possible. And we will continue to do it for as long as we are able. All right. Good. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and YouTube at COWL Fans. You have to search us on YouTube. We don't have the cool slash. We don't have that many subscribers. And Twitter at COWL Fans. We'll have a good time together, everybody. So that's all for this week's episode. I'm Aluramore.
I'm Howleir.
And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hey, babe.